right. What's going on, everyone? Hope you guys are having a great Monday. I know I hate Mondays probably just as much as you guys do, but all right, let me see if I can fix that that way there's no glare or anything. All right. Well, buckle up guys because we have a lot to talk about today. It's getting crazy out there. I mean, it's already been crazy for quite some time, but it's getting even more crazy. What I want to really share with you guys, something that I've been wanting to really talk about, is that what we're seeing today is the same kind of civil unrest, the same kind of maybe chaos, catastrophe, tragedies that our great grandmothers and grandfathers saw in their time in the early 1800s that led up to the American Civil War. And I definitely believe that we're coming to a point in this country where things are about to boil over, albeit conditioning by the powers that be, combined with the ignorance of quite a few people on both sides, both left and right, and the over institution, or maybe not over institution, but the absolute injection of over stimulants, right, of emotion, negative emotion, anger, fear, right, rage baiting, fear mongering, all that stuff, to the point to keeping everyone controlled and controlled of thought, right? Where you can keep people angry at each other, all of their attention is going to be focused on across the street. If you guys understand what I'm saying, focused on each other instead of realizing what the real problems are, talking about the real problems, uniting, setting aside their differences, and then dealing with those differences after the bigger problems have been resolved. So we have a few things to talk about because these are the bigger problems. These are absolutely the bigger problems. And actually, I just reminded myself. Hang on just a second. I just reminded myself. Um, I'm glad I remembered this because this needs to be talked about. Um, oh, here we go. Here we go. This is what I saw earlier, and I will put that right over here. I'm gonna have to try and navigate all of these different tabs. I've got a bunch of tabs open today, so all right. So we're gonna start today's stream off with talking about Robert Morse, and then we're gonna go over and talk about uh, Alex Pretty, and then we're talking about geoengineering to end everything off with. Going over to the Jimmy Dore show, who has Dane Wigington on the channel. He's had him on the channel before talking about geoengineering, and I saw this video in particular I wanted to talk with about you guys, or I wanted to talk about it with you guys. So we're gonna go ahead and start this off. All right. So you guys may have seen, for those of you who are on X, I know this may be some old news here because this was back January 15th. I mean, not that long ago, but in terms of the internet, it's kind of a little bit ago, especially when you're an influencer, you got to stay on top of this stuff. To which I do all kinds of other stuff. So, talking about this stuff is it might take me a little bit, but anyways, so Robert Morris was a spiritual leader, right, to Trump's uh he was a spiritual leader, right, for the White House in his first term. Okay, and this is the disgusting part. He had abused a 12-year-old girl for a number of 4 years, I believe, 4 years, and this animal only got 6 months before, I believe, was he I can't remember if he was pardoned or not. But he wasn't supposed to serve 6 months. He was supposed to serve a lot longer than that. But since he has very high status, right, he gets a softer deal. That's absolutely disgusting, right? Now, let's see, where was it? Um, I just had it. Oh, here it is. Okay. All right. So I believe this was a report. All right. Okay. So this happened, what, back in 87, I think. Oh, okay. So this is from the elders of the Gateway Church. This is where he was pastoring. Okay. So Pastor Robert has been open and forthright about a moral failure he had over 35 years ago, and when he was in his 20s, and prior to him starting Gateway Church. He has shared publicly from the pulpit the proper biblical steps he took in length. Okay, and this is the elders talking about. Here's the important part. Okay, let's see. When I was in my this is Robert talking. When I was in my early 20s, I was involved in inappropriate behavior with a young lady in a home where I was staying. It was kissing and petting and not intercourse, but it was wrong. I don't believe that for a fucking minute. This behavior happened on several occasions. If it was a mistake, why was it on several occasions? It just seems like he's just saying that because he got caught. That's typically what they always do. Over the next few years, this is years, guys, this is years. In March of 1987, a situation was brought to light, obviously, as it should be, and it was confessed and repented of. Right. I submitted myself to the elders of Shady Grove, because this is where shady things happen, and the young lady's father. They asked me to step out of ministry and receive counseling and freedom ministry, which I did. Since that time, I have walked in purity and accountability in this area. 2 years later, in March of 1989, I stepped back into ministry with the full blessing of the elders and her father. Okay, this is important. So remember this when we take a look at another thing here in a second. In October of 1989, Debbie and I met with her and her family, and I asked their forgiveness, and they graciously forgave me. Well, that would be all great. That would be great and all, but there's something that's interesting with this. Okay. Now, this is coming from the victim here. I believe her name was Cindy. Yeah, I believe her name was Cindy. Let's see. So, 25th, 1982, and continued with the bad behavior for 4.5. So not 4 years, 4.5 years after that. When contacted by CP on Saturday, the 54-year-old. Okay, so this is her talking here. My father never gave his blessing on Robert returning to ministry. My father told him he's lucky he didn't end him. I am mortified that he is telling the world my dad gave his blessing. Of course, we forgave. Of course, we forgive. Okay. Why not just show the whole text, the whole quote? When she turned 16, said Morris would take her out in his car and try to have inappropriate relations with her. He was disqualified. Then his teachings prove he's not. Okay, yeah, that's now. Here we go, right here. Yeah, Cindy. Cindy received a call from Debbie Morris, which is his wife, who told Cindy that she forgave her. Debbie is a mother. It is inconceivable to me that a mother would blame a 12-year-old for her husband's bad behavior. Cindy believes that Robert Morris might have told Debbie it was Cindy's fault. Cindy said things fell apart at this point. The circle of family friends was no more, obviously, as they shouldn't be. Right? So, what's really kind of super conflicting, right, for this particular statement here is that Robert said he got back into ministry in 89, right? So, a break after everything exploded in 87, and then got back into ministry in 89. But that's kind of weird because where did I have it? Where did I have it? I had it somewhere. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. So that's pretty conflicting with the elders and Robert's story, because here is a newspaper and it says that Robert Morris of the James Robinson Ministries, will be returning for revival in October. Watch for dates. Okay. This is in 88. So that proves that he was still in fellowship, right? He was still being a pastor in between the times that he said he was out of ministry from 87 to 89. Why is this important? Again, because he was Trump's spiritual leader, right? And Trump had some good things to say about him. But here's the thing, and I'm sure you guys have seen this recently. Oh, my audio is not. Okay, there we go. All right, let me rewind it here. Yeah. Yep. Well, here's the thing, Trump. If you didn't like for someone to call you a PDF file protector, how about you not protect PDF files? How about that? How about that? But then someone called him that, and he tells them, fuck you, and then he flips them off. Not once, but twice. Yeah, there he is, flipping them off again. This is what he really thinks of us Americans. Okay? This is what he really thinks of us. Here's something else. Yeah. And so this is in regards to the Epstein stuff. Okay. And he's talking about the release here. But watch what he says.
That shouldn't be hurt. Yeah. And I would assume that was why he was there. I want to release everything. I just don't want people to get hurt. You can't have people associated. First of all, the files were run by some very bad people and very sick people like Comey and people to get hurt. You can't have it release everything. I just don't want people to get hurt.
Okay. Why would people get hurt? Right? That seems pretty sus of a statement to make. Why would people get hurt? Who would be implicated if these files got released? Which we all know that as they have already failed to meet the deadline of what, over a month now? What, going on 2 months, I believe now? Something like that. Why why would anyone get hurt? That's what I want to know. And who would get hurt if someone got hurt? We don't want anyone to get hurt. But why would that be the case? Why is that his worry, right? Why is it not about the victims, right? It's not about the victims. It's about who would get hurt. Because here's the thing, right? Here's another right here. Because it's not about the victims.
Were you surprised by the number of photos of Bill Clinton in the Epstein files? And can you commit to their full?
What?
And were you surprised by the number of photos of Bill Clinton in the Epstein files? And can you commit to their full release by the end of the year? Some of the victims were protesting that too many of them were redacted.
I know there are a lot of people that are angry about all of the pictures of other people, but I think it's terrible. Look, I don't like I like Bill Clinton. I've always gotten along with Bill Clinton. I've been nice to him. He's been nice to me. We've always gotten along. Respect him. I hate to see photos come out of him, but this is what the Democrats, mostly Democrats, and a couple of bad Republicans are asking for. So they're giving their photos of me too. Everybody was friendly with this guy.
Why would you hate to see photos come out of Bill Clinton if he was involved? Which we all know well who was involved here. But why would it matter either way? Why would it matter? Why would it matter either way? It wouldn't. It wouldn't matter either way. It absolutely would not.
Either friendly or not friendly, but he was around. He was all over Palm Beach and other places. The head of Harvard was his best friend, Larry Summers, and Bill Clinton was a friend of his. But everybody was. I actually threw him out of Mar-a-Lago, and as a person that was in Mar-a-Lago, I threw him out. Mar-a-Lago, this is Mar-a-Lago. It's the hottest place I think it's the hottest place in the world, but it's.
Well, isn't that interesting? Because Virginia Giuffre is one of the very ones that was trafficked out of Mar-a-Lago. And it so happens that she was found after she had come out about the whole Epstein stuff, unalived, with her head blown off. And they ruled it a self-unaliving. Isn't that interesting? How that happens only after she comes out about her story. But you kicked him out, right? You kicked him out, right? Villeneuve, whatever the fuck that name is, told blank, back inside, and someone told the party that Donald Trump had invited them all to a party at Mar-a-Lago. Blank told Villeneuve she wanted to go, but Villeneuve told blank it wasn't that kind of party. It was for prostitutes. So that begs the question, Trump, if you didn't know what Epstein was doing, why would you invite them to a party, Epstein being one of them, and then all of them already knowing what the party was about? Right? That's a little weird. That is
from
a little
Mar-a-Lago,
weird.
often
And then we have obviously CNN even covering for Trump,
Filthy rich, President.
which is kind of crazy to see. But yeah, so out of Mar-a-Lago, and then she just somehow ends up taken from this world, unfortunately. Only after coming out about the Epstein stuff. Yeah, Trump. No one is convinced that this is a Democrat hoax. No one is convinced. Nobody, not a goddamn person, is convinced that this is a Democrat hoax. No one is convinced. See, Morris was a religious advisor for the White House during Trump's first presidency and campaigned for Trump by rallying votes in the last election. So I'm assuming this past election is what he was helping Trump with. So Trump still knew him and was still allowing him to be around. Now, obviously, with this stuff coming to light about Robert Morris, in the in '87, there's no way he didn't know, and even had him as a religious advisor. I don't believe for a single fucking second that he didn't know what was going on. Just like how Trump had Betsy DeVos, who was married into the DeVos family, one of the owners of Amway, who is a multi-level marketing company that scams people and destroys their lives. In his first term, being the Secretary of Education. Yeah, I don't believe for a single fucking second that these people have the American people's best interest in mind. Not at all. And I would imagine that same drive is then going to consider Alex Preddy a terrorist. Or the T word, excuse me. Try not to piss off YouTube here. So, that is very interesting. Oh, and here's something else. Apparently, since this is a newspaper, but in 1982, Robert Morris, televangelist. Oh, that might explain it. Televangelist, yeah. Kenneth Copeland, and then some other guys. I forget their fucking names because I don't care to remember them. But Kenneth Copeland definitely sticks with me because of his eyes. All right, it's got some weird eyes, bro. But apparently he was involved with drugs. And this whole thing happened in '82, 5 years before the whole thing. I mean, just a few years before he was beginning to, have inappropriate relations with a 12-year-old girl. So, interesting. All right, so that is Robert Morris, and that's why it's important to what's happening with this administration. And the fact that I was showing you a little earlier here. We're catching on, and he's getting pissed that we're catching on. Why else would they be redacting pages after pages with the Epstein files? Why else, right? All right. Moving on to the next topic. Talking about Alex Preddy. All right, because this happened very recently. I've been seeing some videos online, and here's my stance on this. You have a Second Amendment right. So you can show up to a protest armed. That is well within your right to do. And so if you want to stand across the street from ICE doing whatever they're doing, armed, that is your right to do. And they're trying to paint this man in a bad light because he had a tool on him to defend himself, which is, again, well within his right to do. But isn't it interesting how there are certain people, MAGA, who are trying to convince everyone else that he is in the wrong simply because he was armed? Well, let's see what happens with that. Pay attention to this guy right here. You can see he's reaching down into Alex's waistband. Now watch what he comes out with. That right there. That right there. That is Alex's personal firearm that he had holstered. That he had holstered. And they're walking away. And at this point, that's when the first shot rings out. And then, I'm not going to show it, but after that, they then shoot him several more times as he's on the ground, lifeless and motionless. Let's look at another angle. All right. So here's the ICE officer. They're filming here. He double pushes this woman to the ground. They're not interfering with the investigation. They're across the street. So if they want to stand across the street, protest, scream, whatever, that is well within their right to do, as the First Amendment permits it. That is as our founding fathers would say, our God-given right? Or maybe not our God-given, but our naturally given rights. And then this is where he steps up, and it's instinctive for men to do this. He steps up, kind of, not even really. He just kind of steps in the way, right? As she's on the ground, bro then sprays him with mace. And then continues to spray both of them with mace. And then still continues to spray them with mace. And then they jump on Alex. Now you see that guy here? Well, I don't know if I can show that on YouTube. I'm gonna try and be careful here. But this guy right here, I believe. Yeah, so he is actively hitting him right now. He's actively hitting him. And then he moves on to the other side. And you can see here, he's still hitting him here. Right before the shots ring out. That is very excessive use of force. This was very, very unlawful. Very unlawful. There was no disorder. There is no disorder that these people are causing, other than just being annoying. Oh wait, that reminds me. That reminds me. That reminds me of this video here. Check this out.
Yeah, what you guys are doing here? Yeah, yeah. Look at them. Look at them. The ICC guys, be careful, be careful. They're over here.
It's not illegal to record.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah. Why are you taking my information down?
Because we have a nice little database.
Oh, good.
And now you're considered a domestic terrorist.
So standing there and filming, they are going to put them in a nice little database, and that they're considered domestic, T-word. Hmm. So standing there and filming is considered extremist. It's considered dangerous. Right. Now, obviously, this isn't all ICE officers, of course. But what is interesting, I'm trying to find it here. Where, here we go. Here it is. ICE isn't just trained by the IDF, by the way. They literally have an office on Israeli occupied land. This isn't an anti Semitic conspiracy. It's not. This is fact. It's literally on their website. There it is, Tel Aviv. So out of 1,000 ICE agents, 120 were confirmed to have prior IDF experience. Some may wonder if this is intentional. Could be. Don't know. I don't know. And I'm not going to say one way or the other. But it's very strange that we have people who are confirmed to have had prior IDF experience. And then we also have ICE, a U.S. Customs enforcement, having anything remotely in another country. It doesn't matter if it's Israel or not, but it's in another country. This should not exist. An embassy in another country. This should not exist. This should never exist. We should only have embassies in our country. But let's get back here. So, yeah, that looks like a phone, 100%. That absolutely looks like a phone. Because here, a lot of people were saying that, oh, he looked like he was trying to slash someone, like it looked like he was reaching for something, still trying to grasp at straws to try and get this man to look like a T word. But here, people were saying that his cell phone had already been in his hand. Yes, because he was filming. He was filming. We saw that earlier. It appears he never let it go. That phone will have valuable evidence. It did have value. I can guarantee you they deleted that shit. 100%. But right there, I mean, it looks, I don't know if I can, I don't think I can zoom in here, but it absolutely looks like a phone because it's square shaped. Right. But let's see. Let's go back to trying to find. Oh, what did I? Oh. All right. I was trying to find a point where, because he didn't have anything in his hands at all when walking up to this whole thing. I might have to. Oh, here we go. Yeah. This is it here. All right. So let's. All right. So here we go. This guy right here, which is the one that we see right here. Okay. This guy walks up right here. You can see he doesn't have anything in his hands. Nothing in, you see? Nothing in his hands there. Or in his right hand. Nothing in his right hand. Nothing in his left hand. Until, I keep clicking the wrong tab here. Until dude goes and look. He's ripping his shirt up. He's ripping his shirt up. And then you see him pull his personal firearm out from him, and he's not hit. He's not struck until after this douchebag disarms him. Okay? You guys can watch the video yourselves. But that's exactly what happens. That's exactly what happens. They absolutely just they shove this guy here, and then this woman is filming. Dude double shoves her to the ground. He tries to step in front, trying to shield her. And then this fucking cuck here, this piece of filth of a human being, if you can even consider him at this point, that, which I don't, take it from someone who's been in law enforcement, okay? I've been military law enforcement. That is not acceptable. That is not acceptable at all. Not acceptable at all. Spraying them. I mean, just all kinds of shit. So these guys can do whatever they want. They can disarm a man and then literally execute him. And then here's something else as well. Let's see. I don't know if you guys have seen this. Here we go. Yep. Ring cameras join Flock and Amazon to now create direct data access for ICE. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that lovely? Isn't that lovely? Your doorbell, your doorbell cam just joined the surveillance state. Don't get it yet? They're building a digital prison around you in real time. But sure, keep pretending it's just about deporting immigrants, which it only should be. It should only be about deporting illegal immigrants. Now, I jumped on the Renee Good bandwagon way, way too quickly, and that's on me. Right. Now I've taken the steps to look at all of the things before commenting on stuff. And ICE is definitely in the wrong when it comes to Alex Pretty. And this is why this matters. This is in New York. Oh no. No, I'm sorry. This is in Minneapolis. We don't live in a democracy, fucking idiot. Catherine, we don't live in a democracy. Here, I'm just going to be petty real quick. I had to be petty. Probably shouldn't be, but, whatever. There's that. And there's something else that I had too. There was another protest in New York. I don't know exactly. Here, let me see. Definitely spelled his name wrong. Oh, here we go. Yeah. I mean, hundreds, thousands of people are marching. There's one, oh, here we go. Yep, New York City. Where guys, we're reaching a boiling point. I mean, people are, I mean, they're furious. They're absolutely furious. I absolutely agree with getting illegals out. They don't belong here, especially when they have no desire to assimilate into our culture. Was it excommunicate Vance? And I'm definitely not going to say that these guys are right. I don't think hardly anybody in this particular situation is right, because these guys are literally marching for illegals. Okay, that's a massive problem. That's a massive problem. However, we also have ICE, who are doing what the fuck they're doing. Oh, here we go, right here. Yeah, this is in Minneapolis. Yeah, this is in Minneapolis. I mean, just look at this. All the while people have no idea what in the fuck they are marching for, cheering for. I mean, these people literally are marching for their own their own replacement. I want you guys to understand that. And Vance spoke on this. JD Vance spoke on this before the election, that what was it? Some guy he worked for. I don't think it was Peter Thiel at this point. But some guy he was close to, excuse me, working for, was literally talking about how he hated Trump because Trump was apparently helping out the American person, American people, and over illegals, because having illegals in this country is much more beneficial to those, CEOs, right? For cheaper labor. So he talks about this, right? And you guys can watch it. It was during an interview. I believe this was during the campaign, obviously. But yeah, they are actively changing laws, right? Where you don't even really need much identification, let alone being a fucking citizen, to vote. And it doesn't matter whether Republican or Democrat, they all play the same game. And they all play the same game because they're owned by the same special interests, the same foreign interests. People need to wake up and realize that. Politicians are not your friends. They are your overlords. Well, I guess they're the puppets of the overlords, right? You want to know who actually runs the country? Big tech, big pharma, right? The wealthy few who buy the sellout politicians. That is who actually owns the country. That in forward interest from a tiny country overseas, So once you realize that, there's no going back. Your eyes can never be closed again at that point in time. After that. All right. So next conversation, next topic is geoengineering. Okay. And I made a video about this snow being weird. I believe it was last night. Yeah, last night. It was like 12:30 in the morning. And I was looking online. People were literally showing videos of how snow was not melting, and I did my own video. If you guys want to see that, I'll be sure to um, you know, share a link with you for those of you who want to see it. Actually, no, I posted it to YouTube as well. Yeah, you guys can check out my shorts, pretty recent. But I did my own video on this, and the snow was not melting right away. The snow was not melting right away. Instead, it was burning. Well, that's weird. That's weird. Sublimation would suggest that it is going to turn into a gas, right, from a solid immediately. So it should just melt right away, right? I mean, when you take heat to snow, obviously that's going to happen. It's going to melt super quick. And they were trying to say that the snow is dry, but that's not the case because there was a frozen rain mixture, right? So that means there's a concentration of water. And in the test that I made, you can literally see that the snow is melting, right? Here, let me see if I can pull it up here.
They knew they would be creating.
You shut your mouth there. You shut your mouth. Here we go. There we go, right here. Hey guys, so I wanted to share this with you. I've been seeing some videos online that people are trying to melt the snow, and instead of just melting right away when it comes to heat, it just does this. You see, it's having a very hard time. It's having a very hard time melting. That should not happen. That shouldn't happen. This is not normal. Not normal snow. Look at the discoloration right there. Obviously, that is from the butane. Yes. But look how it's not melting like it should. Just watch it. Instead, it just sits and burns. That's not normal. That should not be happening. And I've been seeing that with a number of other posts. Here, actually, let me see here.
Got the snow?
Well, yeah, so, I mean, there's a plethora of people who are testing it for themselves. Oh, here we go. Right here.
That's crazy. I mean, it's melting it now. Okay, there it is. How much heat do you have to put? You have to put an enormous amount of 500 degrees.
See, this is what happens when you put heat to snow. This is exactly what happens when you put heat to snow. And it should not take, because they say in the video right after they burn these spots here that this amount of heat is enough to cut metal. All right.
To melt this snow.
What I want to know is what's causing those spark reactions. You see that? Look at those sparks.
And even
oh wait, no, that looks like grass.
It's having problems.
Yeah, that looks like grass. So never mind. That makes sense.
He's having issues right now trying to melt.
That's insane.
He should just be turning the water.
Manufactured snow.
Yeah. So, and isn't it really interesting how they put so much emphasis on this winter storm? Right? Isn't that very interesting? How they were making it seem like societies were going to crumble because of this winter storm. Supposedly here in Virginia, it was supposed to be the worst of it, but I mean, my power didn't go out, thankfully. But isn't it weird? Let's take a look at this. All right. Geoengineering. Geoengineering. What is geoengineering? Geoengineering is the weather modification of spraying chemicals within the atmosphere to manipulate the weather. That is geoengineering. And when you see stuff like this, that's how you know what's going on. Because these trails you can see, right, they eventually disperse, right? As you can see, there's a spread out here. And it just turns everything white like this. That's what happens, right? The wind blows it, and then it just spreads out. That is a chemtrail. There's a number of chemicals that is put, I believe, aluminum, barium, and all kinds of other toxic metals that we have a number of entities who are spraying into our atmosphere, on our food, our water supply, on ourselves. We have no idea what the adverse effects are on ourselves or our economy, our environment. Now, people are quick to say that these are contrails. Well, let me show you the difference between contrails and chemtrails. So we're going to take a look here. That is a contrail, okay? It dissipates just as quickly as it appears after the jet streams, or well, as the jet flies in the air, right? That is a contrail. You can see it just disappears, right? I mean, yeah, it just disappears. That is normal. That is normal. This is not. This is not normal. This is not. These are not contrails. These are chemtrails. I just you can tell you can tell it is what it is. Oh, there we go. There we go. Right there. Fuck knows what chemicals they're spraying up there. Who knows what chemicals they're spraying? Yes, absolutely 100% weather manipulation. 100%. So, I was looking at some things earlier, right? Because I was hearing this here is Dane Wigington, and he's on the Jimmy Dore show. He's been on the Jimmy Dore show before, and they've talked about weather manipulation, the history of weather manipulation, which I'm gonna have to take a little bit more look into. But he mentioned something that the United States government has been using weather manipulation since World War II. Now, I haven't exactly found something like that just yet, but what I have seen is that there's something that was called Operation Popeye that began in 67, I think, or yeah, 67. And there were other stuff around then before. The weather manipulation pretty much started around 1946, right after the war. I was trying to find that information. This is the Wikipedia page here. Project Pop Eye. Yeah, so 67. But there was something else. I'll have to do a little bit more digging into that, but there was something that I saw about 1946. Oh wait, I think it was AI overview. weather modification research. So 1945. Oh, yeah. So this is right after the war. They were researching weather modification. Interesting. All right, so we're gonna go and watch this interview here with our boy Dane here. So let's get into this one. This one's interesting.
They knew they would be creating events exactly like what's happening right now in the US, Winter Storm Fern, that they will blame ultimately as a result of global warming, when in fact it's 100% engineered with chemical isonucleation operations. But because they use the climate change term, people accept that as, oh, that's just a part of this process.
Yep.
No, it's not. It's engineered.
So the Davos WEF Forum in Davos 2026 is happening. It happened this week. And James O'Keefe went undercover and he got them to admit all the stuff that was called a conspiracy theory about people.
Let's see. World Economic Forum elites openly admit that chemicals are being sprayed into the atmosphere to cool the planet and even onto the food supply. One insider admits most of these operations are handled by the military, carried out quietly and behind closed doors. So whoever those guys in the military are, you're fucking traitors. Oh, if you realize, if you don't, that you're traitors. Which I'll be more lenient on if you don't, because they will absolutely lie to you. I know how that is. I know how that goes. Being a 4.5 year Air Force veteran myself, I know. But if you do know and you're doing it, you're a fucking traitor. James O'Keefe went undercover at the World Economic Forum, capturing officials on camera admitting to what's long been dismissed as conspiracy theory. Yeah, we're told we're fucking crazy, and then come to find out we're not crazy. We're just very astute. We're very cautious. Trust the government, right?
People talking about chemtrails and the pollution that governments and private people are putting into the atmosphere under the guise of fighting climate change. Okay. World Economic Forum elites openly admit that chemicals are being sprayed into the atmosphere to cool the planet, and even dismissed as a conspiracy theory. Is going to be doing these chemtrail stuffs and cloud seeding and things of that nature. So he's presenting himself as one of them undercover, and watch what he gets them to admit.
And the particles stay in the air for 1 year. So, and actually we're speaking to some of the airplane manufacturers and to see if they can emit some of our technology into the atmosphere to help with the global warming. That's right. Fantastic. Yeah, climate. I mean, we don't like to use the term climate engineering. It scares people. So we prefer.
But it's but for me, being an engineer, I think that's actually what you do. It's yes. You can have financial engineering, you can have, I'm sure, climate engineering, because it involves something that's more scientific.
Yes, exactly. You're an engineer. You understand.
They have a tendency of using the term scientific or trying to make something appear scientific just so people will be more inclined to believe that it's somehow benevolent, right? Isn't that very interesting how they always default to, oh, it's just science. Oh, there's no malicious behavior here. It's just science. Right.
From Sweden, right? Yeah. So we don't like to call them chemtrails. We don't like to use this.
So what do you call it instead?
Well, we call it aerosol injection. Aerosol. It's kind of like little droplets.
Okay.
And the droplets form in the air, and they stay there for a year.
Yeah.
It's modeled kind of a mini volcanic eruption, actually.
Yeah. I mean, aviation fuels have some sulfur in them, so it creates some sulfur dioxide emissions naturally, and that does have a.
So this is a guy's name is Kennedy Ritchie. He's the president and CEO at 4Air. And so it creates some sulfur dioxide emissions naturally, and that does have a cooling effect.
Now this guy, Kennedy Ritchie, who runs a company called 4Air, spoke on stage, and he says on his website that he wants to, quote, decarbonize the aviation industry. He actually told me he was trying to eliminate contrails entirely, but then brought up cloud seeding.
A lot of the work actually came out of the military, so they do this all the time.
Have you worked with them at all?
No, because they're a little more closed door about their procedures.
You never heard of sulfur dioxide?
Yeah.
You've heard of that? Okay. Yeah.
It's actually pretty cheap to do it. The ability to put sulfur dioxide there is actually a pretty cheap way to cool down the earth.
Oh, yeah.
So, opportunity for, one or two people to.
Yeah, so go ahead and start seeding our atmosphere with aluminums, with bariums, with a bunch of toxic metals that would then cause a number of cancers because obviously it's landing in our food supply, it's landing in our water supply. And just so that we keep going back to these hospitals that then continue to milk us along with the insurance companies that are setting high premiums. Oh my God. Look, guys, if you thought that this past winter storm was normal, think again. Think again.
To do it is, impressive. He went a little further. He's like, it'd be interesting if the government start doing this over each other's territories on purpose. Like,
what? So now we're not just talking about geoengineering over our own population. We're talking about modifying weather on other countries. He's talking about attacking other countries using weather weapons or weather modification weapons, which is actually illegal. And I believe that Dane, right? Dane, yeah. I believe Dane actually gets a little bit into that a little later on. But actively talking about the government using weather modification weapons on other countries, that's going to get us involved in a maybe not a world war, but that it's going to get us involved in a major conflict.
if we start getting to weather modification as a government, either good or bad. The closest one I'm aware of is someone called the Airborne Snow Observatory. They do some more like weather, I don't want to say modification, but more like upper atmosphere weather monitoring is probably a better term.
Yeah. Now, according to the website Airborne, this is what this guy Richie brings up, measures snow depth, snow water equivalence, provides highly accurate snowpack data, is a commercial spin-off of NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory snow monitoring technology used to help water managers and scientists.
So let me bring in our expert guest on.
Hi, can I help you? What? What? Huh? What? 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 What, bro? What? You know you're interrupting the stream, right? It's not all about you. It's not all about you. Let me say hi, stream. Come on. 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 Say hi. Say hi. Oh, hi. Hey, baby. Dude, you are crazy. You are crazy. You are not about to jump up here. You're not about to jump up here. That's right. Parker there. Parker there. Come on, come lay down. Come lay down. Lay down. Good girl. Good girl. Trying to steal the spotlight, bro. This is my show.
This Dane Whittington's here. He's a lead researcher and administrator for the website geoengineeringwatch.org. He's the executive producer of the groundbreaking climate engineering documentary called The Dimming, which is available on YouTube, has over 27 million views so far. He's a background in solar energy and has devoted the last 20 years of his life to researching covert global climate engineering operations and in an effort to expose them all and halt them. Welcome back to the show, Dane.
Thanks for having me back, Jimmy, and thanks for your continued attention toward the skies, because very, very few people yet have any understanding of the gravity and immediacy of the threat that's posed by what's taking place there.
So what that guy just admitted to was that, yes, they're doing this. They're doing this cloud seeding, what people refer to as chemtrails, and he's admitted that it's the military that does most of it. Now, is that true? And how do you respond to hearing someone admit that?
Unfortunately, James was not able to get at anybody that's anywhere near the root of this issue. As I told you off air, I did speak to James about 14 days ago before he went to Davos. I tried to give him the best rundown I could as to what he might be looking for. And when individuals like the ones he spoke to allude to various cloud seeding programs, they're still not clarifying the separation between cloud seeding, localized, publicized cloud seeding operations, and climate engineering, two completely different animals. And the power structure will still continue to do everything it can to keep the climate engineering operations from coming to light, because the difference is a single engine propeller driven aircraft with cloud seeding might disperse 5 to 10 pounds of material in a single flight. KC-135 can dump 100 tons of toxic nanoparticles in a single flight. And that's what it takes to paint the whole sky filthy white. People have no idea how much material we're all breathing this on our food, water. It's everywhere, ubiquitous.
I would be very interested to see the effects that's going to have on our lungs, on our livers, especially our livers, on our kidneys. What organs are these chemicals going to attack first, right? What's going to do the most damage? I think a lot of this is actually causing a bunch of brain fog as well, and that's a massive problem too. I think there was this talk about how a lot of these chemtrails are causing brain fog. They're causing illnesses, sicknesses. What was it? I think it would. I think if I remember correctly, it was definitely brain fog. Energy, and also affecting people's energy levels, right? Draining them of their energy, right? Making people more angry, stuff like that.
Yes.
So, like when you see something like this, what does that tell you?
That is climate engineering. That is not cloud seeding. And there's an effort by the power structure to blur the line between the two, because people don't feel threatened by a single engine propeller driven airplane with some flares on the wings. If they saw a KC-135 military tanker dumping 100 tons into the air, and they don't stay aloft for a year. I want to make that clear. We know from our work with the polymer chemists that some of the descent times, because they're only able to carry those heavy payloads into this troposphere, not the stratosphere. So the descent times are very, very rapid. That's why they're spraying so much. Descent times as low as 12 to 24 hours. So they're absolutely burying our skies in this filth, and we all get to breathe it.
Let me show you. Here's one more video, undercover video from James O'Keefe in Davos, where the WEF elites admit secrets about geoengineering, artificial rain, and they say BlackRock is behind all of it. Let's listen.
The ability to put sulfur dioxide there is actually a pretty cheap way to cool down the earth.
Yeah, I was just at the one of the events, and I support the work you guys are doing. They said that BlackRock was behind all the climate stuff, so I really appreciate that.
Got BlackRock behind us.
We spoke to a lot of people, and I spoke to this one guy from Denmark, and it was remarkable because he actually said that they would think about doing artificial rain, and he works with DARPA.
We're looking at Vanguard Technologies for creating our own platform.
Wow.
We're working with laser light comms and DARPA.
And are you familiar with this?
How about SAI, stratospheric aerosol injections? Oh, yeah. Sulfur dioxide in the atmosphere. So yeah, artificial rain, we work in that space.
Oh, nice. Nice. So not just aluminum, barium, but also sulfur. Yeah, spray us with sulfur, bro. That's great.
Yes. Wonderful.
So again, back to you, Dane. So he's saying this. There's another guy who's in this business saying he works directly with DARPA, which is the U.S. military, and so you're saying that the U.S. military is doing this, and well, let me just show you one more. Tom Wren says, I've been talking for some time about the fact that much of the chemtrail spraying comes from the military and secret DOD contractors. That's why Zeldin, who's the current EPA administrator, doesn't have access to this info. That's why RFK can't stop it, and why you can't do a Freedom of Information Request Act on it. Biden declared climate change a matter of national security, so these programs could legally be hidden, shielded from public scrutiny, and funded beyond his presidency. I recognize this post is easy to dismiss since I can't provide public evidence. That's part of the Biden's point, but this is how it's being done. So what he's saying is that the reason why we can't get information on this is because it's being kept secret, because it's being Biden deemed it an emergency, and so the military can keep it a secret that they're doing this. Am I reading that right?
Yes, it is absolutely a matter of national security. It's much more than just the U.S. military involved. You have militaries all over the country, all over the planet, involved, actively or passively. I'm glad Tom's getting more up to speed on this because I spoke to him about a year ago and the subject was relatively new to him. So I hope he continues to research on the issue. And I wish we were talking about sulfur dioxide here, Jimmy. We're talking about aluminum, barium, strontium, manganese, polymer fibers, surfactants, graphene. This is a plethora of toxic materials. So the media pushes the sulfur dioxide part because it sounds benign and natural to people because that's what volcanoes emit. That's just a smokescreen for what they're really spraying. And right now, as they're waging winter weather warfare in the continental U.S. with Winter Storm Fern, and that's exactly what it is. That storm is engineered top to bottom. And the plethora of toxic elements being dumped into that record warm moisture out of the record warm Gulf of Mexico and Gulf of California, that is highly toxic material. That map is extremely telling. There's not a meteorologist that can walk and chew gum that doesn't know that is absolutely engineered. You cannot create a temperature gradient like that with any natural hydrological cycle. That is engineered top to bottom.
So you're telling me this map right here, so explain to me what I'm looking at and how this show proves that this is an engineered weather pattern.
I tried to find it. I don't think it's in this video, but there was a, if I remember correctly, a Freedom of Information Act request, and it was about geoengineering, and so there was a release from that, but there were so many redactions, it was hard to really get information on what was actually being said. I'll try and find that, but I guess we'll have to see.
Pattern that's happening right now, this huge snowstorm that's cutting across the United States and this cold snap.
Oh wait, here. Let me see if I can do this. I'm gonna pull this off to the side, and I'll have this up playing well.
You're telling me that this map. So tell me what this map shows us.
If you went back 20 years, you would never, 20 years or further, you would never find anything that even remotely resembled that map. Weather moves in the northern hemisphere from west to east because of the Coriolis effect of the planet, because of the spin.
Right.
So how can it be record warm in the west and record cold in the east? That's patently wrong. So they high pressure dome with frequency transmission facilities, which are weapons of mass destruction like HARP in Alaska. They can superheat the ionosphere, creates a massive expanding bulge in the atmosphere up and down. That creates a high pressure dome in the northern hemisphere, which spins the upper level wind currents clockwise. So picture that red spot of above normal or record high temperatures as being a high pressure dome that rotates clockwise, rotating all the moisture from the Pacific around it, or a low pressure zone below it, rotating below it. So they're spinning the moisture around the west, chemically nucleating it. And those are patented processes, by the way. These are endothermic reacting materials Chinese government openly announced they're doing exactly this on a massive scale. All mainstream media covered it. If you bring it up here, they marginalize you. So they're seeding this cloud moisture with climate engineering aircraft, not the single engine propeller driven kind, but the kind that dump 100 tons in a single payload. And those endothermic reacting elements, in many cases, because this moisture is now so warm, it's reaching the surface, Jimmy, before it sets up. And that's why you're about to have massive ice storms, hugely destructive ice storms, because these materials aren't setting up until they reach the surface. And again, that's not natural either, to have an ice storm transition zone between the record warm migrating moisture and the eventual various forms of frozen chemically nucleated material that fall. That is an engineered scenario, period, top to bottom.
So what is in it for them to engineer something like this?
Again, you have the usual elements: aluminum, barium, strontium, manganese, polymer fibers, graphene. These are named in ice nucleation patents, chemical ice nucleation for weather modification. We have other elements named like urea, even in some of the patents. And these patents are posted at geoengineeringwatch.org. Again, this is not new technology. And Jimmy, you may remember that in various events like the Olympics, the Chinese government announced, don't worry about the rain, it won't. Remember the Sochi Olympics, where it was really in an area that was too warm for the Winter Olympics? Remember that?
Yeah.
So if you look from a distance in some of the shots there, because Russia's neck deep in these operations as well, so is China. So you had the mountain that the Olympics were held on, the Winter Olympics. It was covered with chemically frozen material. And if you looked at the surrounding mountains, same elevation, there was nothing. We have a satellite image, Jimmy, of a stripe of snow across flat Kansas, 10 miles wide and 300 miles long. Are we to believe that's nature? So people need to think of their first aid kit. Sits on their shelf, room temperature for 20 years. You mix the cold pack together. Those are endothermic reacting elements. You have ice instantly, chemical ice. So again, this is that on a scale that's inconceivable.
And again, so I'm having a hard time understanding what the governments get out of creating an incredible ice storm that's going to hit their own country. What do they get out of that? What would be the purpose? What's their aim and their goal?
First, let's start with any notion that any administration, whatever their political stripe, is here for the benefit of the American people. We need to throw that out the window right now.
Correct.
Second, we have the ability of the climate engineers and the controllers to confuse and divide the population as to the true state of damage already done to the planet, much of it from climate engineering, because it's been used as a weapon of weather for decades, a covert weather warfare weapon, crown jewel weapon of the military industrial complex. So when you create an event like this, it doesn't matter to most people if it's been record high for months and months. Once you create a cold down like this, that's the only thing they consider or remember. And they can't imagine then that there's any problem with the climate anywhere in the world, let alone any warming. So let's put this into a wider context. The most anomalously less warm region in the entire world since 2012 is the eastern half of the US lower 48. Why would that be? That's the most populated portion of the US by far. That's because the US has the biggest military by far, funding as much as the next 10 biggest militaries combined, and the US military has 3 times more atmospheric tankers than all other militaries in the world combined. So this is an engineered event, period. We can speculate about all the agendas and objectives. There are many and they are not benevolent, but this is absolutely engineered. That map is as unnatural, meteorologically speaking, as it could possibly be.
Yep. Well, I wasn't really able to find any the redacted stuff, but I was able to find this. Let's see. Not exactly sure what all of these mean here. So cooperative aviation centers, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, cooperative aviation centers, guidelines for balancing the protection of technology and classified information, artificial intelligence, directed energy, microwave systems, counter unmanned aerial systems, missile defense, cybersecurity, quantum technologies. Okay, streamline the approval process for technology transfers. All this stuff is just gibberish. uses such interconnected ranges and sites as a joint multi-domain kinetic and non-kinetic. Okay. All right. Let's see. U.S. government is participating in geoengineering programs that include cloud seeding, solar radiation management, DEWs, weaponization, which is what one of the guys was talking about earlier. Stratospheric aerosol injections, SAI. $900 billion National Defense Authorization Act, NDAA 3086, passed. Electromagnetic warfare, weather operations, AI testbeds, Air Force programs, RDT&E, biotechnology. 5G is very dangerous. 5G is absolutely very, very, very dangerous. People can die very easily to 5G. What the fuck? Let me see if I can. DARPA, tech development, directed energy weapons, NATO R&D, NOAA, aviation centers, electromagnetic weather, psych, space ops. Okay, so those are the Five Eyes Alliance. That's weird. I've never heard of that. I don't know what that is. Oh, AUCA. Okay. U.S. intelligence sharing of medical and intelligence focused on national security threats, monitoring infectious diseases, bioweapons, pandemics, health-related vulnerabilities of adversaries through defense and intelligence agencies, shared research on biodefense and infectious disease threats. That's interesting. No, it isn't. They don't care about our consent, bro. They're going to do whatever the fuck they want. Signed into law now. Awesome. Great. Something's got to be done about that.
And so how do the elites protect themselves from their own experiments?
You know, I would ask this too, and that's a very fair question, because most people walk away from this issue because they say, quote, they wouldn't do this to themselves. And again, who are they? Those who print the money ultimately are at the top of this pyramid from every direction. They control media, they control elected officials, they control militaries. But how did they protect themselves from the detonation of 2,400 nuclear bombs? How will they protect themselves from Fukushima, for example, triple nuclear meltdown?
Well, I hate to tell you guys, but the nuclear weapons that we have are several times more powerful than Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Several times more powerful. And if those were to ever go off, this entire planet would be done for. I just want to let you guys know that. They are seriously that powerful. These nuclear weapons are that powerful. All right? So, there's really nothing you could do if these weapons decide to go off one day.
No technology to fix it, no end in sight. We have 442 new plants that will go into meltdown as collapse ensues. We're building 60 more. We're not dealing with sanity. And this is most important, Jimmy. They look at this as a risk-to-risk scenario. That is their words, not mine. The risk of doing it versus the risk of not doing it, and not for benevolent purposes. Their objective is to retain their power till the brutal, bitter end, even if they only have ashes to rule over. So again, we have enough examples of human behavior, especially with those in power, that they ultimately don't care about the consequences of their actions, even to themselves, if that's what it takes to retain their power.
So I want to show you one thing. I showed you it briefly, but I'll read this is from Erin Elizabeth Health Nut News. She says, this was the sky today here in Florida in the back of our little farm. And she asked, Grok, please tell everybody how an Israeli company called Stardust Solutions is going to come here and start spraying April 1st. I wish it were an April Fool's joke. Give a full list of the billionaire donors, American and otherwise. And so Grok responds. Grok says Stardust Solutions, an U.S.-Israeli geoengineering startup, plans to begin outdoor tests of sunlight-reflecting particles in April 2026 to cool the planet. No sources confirm Florida specifically or an exact April 1st start date. Tests involve aircraft releases, but locations are undisclosed. Knowing investors include Lower Carbon Capital, that's Chris Sacca, Exor, that's the Agnelli family, Future Ventures.
Real quick, a little bit of a sidebar. Isn't it interesting how Hurricane Helene destroyed is it South Carolina, right? Or was it North Carolina? I want to say it was, I mean, obviously South Carolina, North Carolina, pieces of Virginia, I think. I think it was South Carolina. But isn't it interesting how a certain place was hit by Hurricane Helene and then it only affected certain people? But there was an effort to try and purchase land from these people, and they wouldn't take the money. So then a storm came out of nowhere and ruined the place. Isn't that interesting? And then these people were left to rot, right? And then how we realized that millions of illegals can receive thousands of dollars in hotel rooms, but people who lost their homes, their children, as some people celebrated those unfortunate demises, they only get like $700. Isn't that interesting? Right? Right.
Steve Jurvenston, Future Positive Kindred Capital, Attestor, and AWZ Ventures, total funding $75 million from just 13 backers. So, again, this seems crazy that there isn't a law preventing this. So what is the legality of this kind of stuff?
Let me back into this. I know Aaron Elizabeth. I know Joe Mercola, Aaron's partner. And on this issue, I hope they continue to do research, because the whole Stardust Solutions, Make Sunsets, all these startups are smoke and mirrors designed to distract from the elephant in the sky that has budgets not in the tens of millions, but in the trillions for the aircraft that are deployed all over the globe. So again, all of these types of smoke screens are designed to distract the population, to confuse them as to what's really going on, what scale it's on. These programs were first fully deployed over 80 years ago, Jimmy, immediately after World War II. They've been ramped up steadily ever since. In fact, 1998 was a major ramp up. Jimmy, you remember when they incorporated the term climate change instead of global warming?
Yes.
And they did that in 1998 because that was the warmest year ever recorded to that point in time. They decided to double down on climate engineering. They knew they would be creating events exactly like what's happening right now in the US, Winter Storm Fern, that they will blame ultimately as a result of global warming, when in fact it's 100% engineered with chemicalized nucleation operations. But because they use the climate change term, people accept that as, oh, that's just a part of this process. No, it's not. It's engineered. And we're perplexed at geoengineeringwatch.org as to why all of the sources that claim to be fighting climate engineering are pretending that events like what's happening right now is some sort of sign of global cooling or coming ice age. That's exactly the narrative the climate engineers and the controllers want. Confuse and divide the population, an event that's totally engineered. And we have online people, again, towing the narrative for the controllers. This is winter weather warfare, period.
And so,
doesn't that remind you on the, confusion and division? Doesn't that remind you of other areas when it comes to politics? Race, gender, religion. Isn't that interesting?
As Kurt points out many times on the show, there was in the 70s, there was a global treaty where you wouldn't use weather modification weapons, right? Am I correct on that's when that happened?
Yes, it's called the INMOD Treaty. Yes, 1976.
And so when they had this, so as Kurt also points out, well, you don't create a nuclear treaty unless you already have nuclear bombs. You don't create a weather modification treaty unless you already have the tools to create weather modification in a way that it could be used as a weapon of war. So that was way back in this, that's 50 years ago. Back in the 70s, they already had this technology, so much so that they had to have a treaty about it.
You're exactly right. And that treaty came from the success of Project Popeye in Vietnam in the 60s. The U.S. military so successful at controlling the flow of precipitation over that country that the international community
That's what we just talked about.
Demanded these treaties. But if we go back even further, 1947, Project Cirrus, U.S. military's first announced deployment of hurricane modification operations. And we knew they were beta testing during World War II because we have film footage of the B-17s that people assume is all condensation all over the sky. We found military archival film, B-17s flying in formation, leaving massive plumes, and then instantly shutting off. Did that plane fall out of formation? Did its engines all die? No, that was a beta test because we know they were deployed immediately after World War II. So when people ask why would they want to do this, the obvious response is why wouldn't they? Of course they do. With this weapon, they can bring populations to their knees, including the U.S. population, whenever they want, and blame nature. This is the crown jewel weapon of the military-industrial complex.
And so when we look at this map, and what you are saying, what's happening right now in the United States, this warm snap on the West Coast and this brutal winter storm happening in the Midwest and the East, you're saying that they're doing this and then they blame it because on climate change, because they always say, yeah, you're going to have worse storms, you're going to have worse flooding, you're going to have worse snow, and they blame it all on climate change. And you're saying that it's engineered.
This is where the equation becomes more complicated, and you're correct. You are exactly correct. There's nothing natural about this, and the map you see, the scenario you see, is a result of massive climate intervention operations. But what people need to also consider, we have been very poor stewards of the planet. I'm not denying that. We've trashed this planet in the geologic blink of an eye. We have problems. But we can't call anything natural weather at this point. Once you taint the system, you taint the entire system. And this is not one country doing it over their airspace. We have countries all over the world actively or passively participating. The atmosphere is literally a battle zone at this point, Jimmy. And we have, going back to 78, 2 years after the INMOD treaties we just talked about, we have 800-page congressional documents posted at geoengineeringwatch.org, important sections highlighted, outlining even then budgets into the hundreds of millions of dollars with participation between otherwise adversarial countries because of the cross-border ramifications. This collusion and cooperation has been going on for decades.
Okay, well, Dave Wigington, I appreciate you coming on and giving us your expertise. Is there anything you want to, did I leave out, you want to add?
Just that people shouldn't underestimate their ability to help in this equation. Don't go catatonic thinking that there's nothing you can do. If you share credible data from a credible source, if you start spot fires of awareness with those around you, ask them to do the same. If we all did that, we would push this issue to the full light of day, Jimmy. And if we can do that, the fur would fly. We would cause a shockwave around the world. Our military brothers and sisters who are participating in this, being told they're doing something benevolent, and they're very compartmentalized. Again, did the pilot in Vietnam that was spraying Agent Orange on his comrade on the ground, was he told that will kill your pal at some point down the road? Of course not. So again, if we share credible, verifiable data, and we all do that, and we force this to the light of day, governments around the globe would then be forced to face the fact that their populations know what's been done to them without their knowledge or consent. The proverbial pitchforks and torches moment, Jimmy. We need to reach that moment soon.
But what is that going to do, though? Right? What is that going to do? These governments aren't going to fucking care. They're not going to care. Matter of fact, they're going to double down. Or just leave. These people are sick. They're evil. They're fucking rabid dogs is what they are. They're not going to care. I mean, just like Dane said, these people would much rather rule over ashes if they can't rule over anything. Right? So they will be glad, exceedingly glad, to take us all out if that means they still have some kind of power. So they're not going to care. Us noticing, right, and talking about it, making it mainstream, it's not really going to do a lot. It's just it's not. It's not. But this is also where I disagree with Dane. I don't really think there's a whole lot we can do about it. Because look who has all the power. The governments do. Right? They have AI. They have they can literally modify the weather to destroy our livelihoods in the blink of an eye. Look what happened with Hurricane Helene. What can we do? You know what? Because it all comes back to the same thing. It doesn't matter what we do. It all comes back to conflict. Because these people would, again, much rather rule over ashes if they can't rule over anything at all. Obviously, that's going to bring conflict. And the power is not in the people's hands, man. It's not. That's why I'm very pessimistic about us doing anything about it besides exposing it, which is what we should be doing, right? We should be exposing it. We should be protesting it. And it's not just this topic either. It's so many other topics. You know, MLMs is one of the biggest ones, right? And then I mean, obviously the voter stuff too. But you know, there are a number of other things, right? ICE and IDF that needs to be mainstream, which I think will start to become more mainstream here. But you know, I especially want to get MLMs, that topic, into the mainstream because that really needs to be taught. 14.6 million Americans were affected, and that number could be even higher. So, yeah, these topics need to be brought to the forefront. They absolutely need to be brought to the forefront. It seems today that all you see. I mean, Family Guy really said it best. You know, all you see on TV is violence and pornography on TV, which is true. Which is true. Look at all of our shows; they always devolve into this into some degenerate shit. And then you also have people who are constantly angry and just going at each other. It's the state of our country. We are actively in collapse. Actively, we're in collapse. And we're so far divided, I don't think there's really a whole lot people can really do to unite, right? To set aside their own emotions long enough to set aside their differences and work to figure out the real problems, the bigger problems. Only after that can we really set aside our differences or settle our differences. Not set aside our differences. Not set aside our differences. And while they convince us to hate each other for who we vote for, what we believe, who we go home to, who we hang out with, they are robbing us, poisoning us. And they're gaslighting us to believe whatever they want us to believe. For their benefit. Follow the money, man. Follow the money. Follow the money. Follow the benefits. Who gets elected. Who bought their election. It's a sad day, man. It's so sad. It really gets you exhausted. It does. You become really exhausted. I wish more people cared about this stuff instead of just tuning into the red versus blue stuff, tuning into the man versus woman stuff. It frustrates me. It really does. It frustrates me to see people would much rather tune into the feel good stuff instead of tuning into the actual stuff, the real problems. This country is collapsing. It is actively collapsing. There's no other way around it. It's actively collapsing. It's already spiraling out of control. This country is reaching its end of life stages. That's just the reality of it, man. That is just the reality of it. So make sure you guys are preparing food, water, ammunition, weapons, and have a secluded, protected space for you and your family, your friends, if you can. Because when shit hits the fan and you haven't prepared, you're going to really, really wish you did. So be smart. Don't be desperate. This country doesn't have long. I've been trying to get that out there, but I've been told I'm crazy. I don't even think we have 5 years left, to be honest with you guys. There's too much corruption. There's too much to fix. It's just not going to work. So, I'm trying to do all that I can to bring us all together, doing all the different content that I do, but I'm just not confident, guys, to be honest with you. I'm really not confident. So, that being said, thank you all for joining. For those of you who did, hopefully this helped you out. If it did, please like, share, subscribe, join the family. I want to bring us all together, like I said earlier, regardless of who you are. As long as you're a good person, I really care about you. I really love you as a good person. I don't care who you are. We're here to share the truth, talk about the truth, and to expose these evil motherfuckers for who they are, regardless of who they are. Because evil motherfuckers are always going to be just that, evil motherfuckers. Right? So, and I don't believe in the afterlife. I don't believe there's this grand afterlife that, all of us who are good people are going to go to heaven and those who are evil are going to go to hell. But it does give you some reassurance, and that's why religion is so enticing. A safety net, and that's what people really care about. Safety. But anyways, I want to go ahead and end things here. Please let me know what you thought about this. I'd like to hear what you guys have to say down in the comments below, or down in the comment section. And we talked about a lot today. So stick around. Next live stream, we're talking about Christianity. That's going to be a very interesting topic. I have a lot of things to say about it, a lot of knowledge to give to you guys, because that's something else that I really wanted to push into the mainstream too, is the truth of all of these different religions. A lot needs to be said. So we got to have these conversations. Anyways, going to go ahead and wrap things up here, guys. Thanks so much for stopping by again. And for those of you who are watching later on, I hope that what we've talked about here in the video that would be then that you guys are watching is helpful to you. And I was helpful to those of you who were joining for the live. So that being said, you guys make sure you have a great night. Okay? Stay warm. If you need me for anything, please reach out. I love you all. Talk to you soon.